today's movie is Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, the 1971 musical fantasy directed by Mel Stuart with a script by Roald Dahl and David Seltzer from the novel by Roald Dahl. It stars Gene Wilder, Jack Albertson, Peter Ostrum, Roy Kinnear, Julie Dawn Cole, and many others. Reclusive chocolatier Willy Wonka offers 5 lucky golden ticket finders the chance to tour his secretive magical factory and win a lifetime supply of chocolate. But as mishaps befall each of the lucky children, the tour begins to take on strange and sinister dimensions. What does the strange and unpredictable Willy Wonka really have in mind, and will Charlie make it to the finish line? I had originally intended to make Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory one of my feel-good films for stressful times, but on this viewing it really didn't strike me that way. This is one of those movies I've seen so many times. I've got the DVD, and even though I've got the DVD, every time it comes on TV, I'll have to have a look at it, watch part of it, if not the whole thing. I just love it so much. But I hadn't really sat down and watched it straight through from start to finish in quite a while. And what I found so interesting on this viewing was how many questions the film raised for me that I hadn't really thought about before. Yes, it's a whimsical and magical film, but is it feel good? What struck me on this viewing was how dark and unsettling it is, how much it lingers in those minor keys, in the black notes, as it were, both musically and in terms of its mood. It's a film that's riddled with the threats of stranger danger and also very much preoccupied with depression and hopelessness. Charlie is very depressed, his mother is extremely depressed. Willy Wonka is also fairly melancholy. Wonka has withdrawn from the world completely and exists only in a world of his imagination. Now, Grandpa Joe is a character whom I have made fun of a lot in the past because, you know, he's in bed all the time and he won't get up and help Charlie's mum, but at the first whiff of free chocolate, he gets up and he's dancing around the room. But on this viewing, what struck me was how he seems clinically depressed, and in fact they all do. Grandpa Joe says he's been in bed for 20 years, which would have made him about 45 when he first took to his bed. Charlie's mum would only have been about 20, so he was not an old man then. He was not an old man taking to his bed because he's too old and feeble to get up. He seems as though he's just hopeless. He's lost all hope. He has nothing to look forward to until the golden ticket gives him something to live for. And what I found really interesting was the song that he sings with Charlie, I've Got a Golden Ticket. It starts with the words, I never thought my life would be anything but catastrophe. And it's kind of all about that hopeless and depressed mindset that he was in before the ticket came into their lives. One thing I've long wondered about this film is whether Wonka has actually pre-selected the winners, whether he has set them up to get the tickets deliberately. Slugworth is there when each of them opens the tickets. He just happens to be there, and I don't think that's a coincidence, of course. So to me it suggests that Wonka has chosen them deliberately. And of course the next question that would raise is, has he set them up to fail? Is he choosing them only to punish them? And that's kind of a dark and disturbing idea. Has he in fact chosen these particular children with their brattiness and their rudeness and greed and all the other faults in order to punish them and in order for Charlie to see him punishing them? What interested me on this viewing was that moment when Grandpa Joe and Charlie wander off from the tour and go to the fizzy lifting drinks room where they sneakily take some of the drinks and, float up in the air. They get away with this transgression in a way that none of the other children do. But Wonka still knows that they've done it. Even though they think they're alone, they're being watched because at the end he calls them out on it. So I guess my question really is Wonka setting up all the bad children for what he knows they will do in order to punish them, to use them as examples for Charlie of the behaviour that he will not tolerate, knowing and expecting that Charlie will win in the end? Wonka wants to bring someone from the outside world into his dream world, his pure world of imagination. But he does not want someone worldly, and it's the worldliness that he punishes in the children. You know, the greed, the rudeness, etc., etc. And I was reminded while watching this of my reaction to seeing the film Midsommar recently, which while I was watching it, I kept thinking this is like a kind of inverse Willy Wonka, and the parallels are in fact quite strong in the fact that both films deal with a kind of idyllic hidden world into which worldly outsiders are brought quite deliberately, and then of the outsiders that come in, each one is kind of picked off and eliminated because of their sins, leaving only one who is then brought into that idyllic world as a kind of, king or queen, or someone who's going to inherit that world and who belongs to it, and who is given, in fact, the gift of belonging to it as the prize. Gene Wilder is truly astonishing in the role of Willy Wonka, flashing from, whimsy to melancholy, from charming to downright scary by the moment. And it's only at the end, it seems, that that mask falls away and his true nature and his true purpose is revealed. And then he's very warm and kind. So the question that I was left with at the end was, is this all just a game? Are the other children just pawns in Wonka's game? And is this all a test for Charlie? It was never a test for the other children. They were just used as the bad examples. And Wonka, I think, hopes that Charlie will be the good and kind child that he hopes he is, and will be able to sustain this fantasy world with his purity. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory is such a remarkable film in many ways, and it has many moods from, magical to scary, from light to dark, but the dark is pretty dark, and the dark is there in a lot of the scenes. For a film about chocolate and magic and whimsy, it does dwell a lot in despair and hopelessness. The other fantastic thing about this film, of course, is its cast headed by the wonderful Gene Wilder. But I think special mention also must be made of Roy Kinnear, who is one of my favourite British character actors and comedy performers. Special mention must be made of the remarkable Julie Dawn-Cole. I think her performance as Veruca Salt stands out as one of the great child actor performances of all time for me. And her number, I Want It Now, is such a showstopper. I just love the fact that she really gets a chance to shine, and she is every bit Roy Kinnear's equal as a performer in this movie. Also noteworthy is the wonderful and much missed Tim Brooke-Taylor in his cameo as the computer programmer, and it's uncredited in the film. I'm not sure why, but it's so nice to see him in a context outside of the goodies, and he's great in this. I felt in the end that what this film presents is a journey from hopelessness to hope, from the darkness to the light, and that is in the end kind of mirrored by the way the elevator smashes out of the window and into the daylight. Wonka in the end seems like the missing piece who's going to restore this broken family, which is Charlie's family, as he's a kind of father figure who's going to, magically make things better for them in the end. What really surprised me on this viewing was the emotional complexity of this film and its unsettling tone, as much conveyed through the music as through the action. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory is a strange and remarkable film showcasing the enormous charisma and wonderful volatility of Gene Wilder as an actor. I found this a fascinating film on this viewing, and it just raised so many more questions than I'd ever really thought about before. Am I overthinking it? I don't know. Perhaps you have different views of the film. But certainly the fact that it still gives us so much to think about after all these years says something about what a great work of art it is. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope I'll see you next time. Bye.